Good morning. We are now beginning Module 9, and Module 9 is all about probability. And the first lesson, 9.1, this is completely talking about likelihood. And so the learning target, I can describe the likelihood of an event as impossible, unlikely, equally likely to happen, as not to happen, likely, or certain. Okay, so the vocabulary that we are going to learn in this is event, likelihood, and outcome. Okay, so I've made a table, and we are going to, the description over there is given. Is it impossible, unlikely, equally likely, likely, or certain? And so basically, what that means is, like let's say we are tossing a quarter into the air. Okay, and then when it lands we are like, is it heads or tails? Okay, so what are the outcomes? There are two outcomes. You can have head, you can have tails. All right, so since there are two sides to the quarter, it can only land on one side at a time, and each of these results is called an outcome. Okay, so whether it lands on heads or it lands on tails, these are called outcomes. Okay, and then the desired outcome or set of outcomes is called an event. Okay, so event is the desired outcome because that's what we want. Okay, let's say we say heads, so that heads would be the desired outcome. If you say tails, that's what we desire, that's the outcome that we want. Okay, but again, what is happening, it can land on two sides. That is called the outcome. Okay, so desired outcome, a set of outcomes, is called event. Okay, and both outcomes are equally likely because they both have the same chance of occurring. All right, so each outcome is equally likely to happen as not to happen. So you can describe an event's likelihood in different ways. Okay, so the table over here is going to show descriptions of likelihoods from impossible to certain. So impossible basically means is not going to happen. It's not possible. Not possible. Okay. Unlikely is having a poor chance of success. Okay. This is unlikely means having a poor chance of success. Okay, poor chance of success. Equally likely means the same chance of happening as not happening. Okay, so same chance of happening as not happening. Just like the example that I gave you with the coin. Okay, it has heads or tails, there are only two sides. So it has an equal chance whether it's going to fall on heads or on tails. So equal chance of something happening as not happening, that is what equally likely is. Okay, then likely is having a good chance of success. Okay, so this means having a good chance of success, right? And the last is certain, which means this is absolutely sure to happen, absolutely sure to happen. Okay, so these are the different likelihoods that are possible. And it's just showing it from impossible to certain. So as you can see, based on the table that I have created, and the phrase equally likely is used to describe the likelihood of an event that is equally likely to happen as not to happen. Okay, so that's basically what we were talking about, heads and tails of the coin. Okay, so I'm going to move you to my smart board where I'm going to have certain examples. Okay, and then let's go ahead and see what are the chances of it happening. So look at these. For example, the first example, it's saying for each likelihood, select the spinner that best classifies the likelihood of the spinner landing on the number 2. Assume each spinner is spun once. Okay, so likelihood of it landing on 2. Let's look at spinner A. Okay, do we have any 2 over here? Okay, so as we can see that there is no 2 in that spinner. Because there is no 2 in that spinner, the likelihood of this landing on 2 for the first one is impossible. This is impossible. Okay, so we're talking about what's impossible, what is, all these different things that we talked about, unlikely, equally likely, etc. So the first one, since there's no 2, the likelihood of it landing on a 2 is absolutely impossible. Okay, let's look at the second one. Okay, so we have 4 twos over here and we have 2 ones over here. So it's talking about the likelihood of it landing on a 2. And what does since we have more twos, the likelihood of it happening is, it's likely. Okay, there's a good chance of success here because we have more of these than the one, more of twos than the one. So it is pretty likely that it is going to happen, it's going to land on it too. Let's look at the third one, okay, which is C. And in this, we can see that 2 is like only 1 and the rest are all ones. So therefore, the likelihood of it landing over here is pretty slim. Okay, that means it has a poor chance of success. So this would be unlikely. The chances of it landing on a 1 are much higher than landing on the 2. Okay, let's look at 2 more. So if I'm looking at the next one, which would be a D, what is the probability of it landing on a 2? As you can see that all of them are only 2. So because of that, this is going to be absolutely certain. Okay, so this one, this is going to be certain. This is certain. It will definitely land on a 2 because we only have 2 over there. All right. Look at the last one, which is E. And we have equal part of 2 and equal part of 1. All right. So in this case, there is a probability that it is equally likely to either land on a 2 or not. So if you know talked about equally likely is the same chance of happening as not happening. So this last one, this would be equally likely. Equally likely. Okay. So let's talk about one more slide with some examples as to what is the likelihood of something happening or not. And so if we go over here and we're going to talk about the likelihood of something happening or not. Okay, so classify the likelihood of each event as impossible, unlikely, equally likely, likely, or certain. All right, so let's look at the first one. Spinning a number less than 5 on a spinner divided into equally um, 4 equal sections labeled 1 through 4. So if I have something labeled 1 through 4 and I'm spinning a number less than 5 on a spinner, Okay, so less than 5 is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what they're labeled. So obviously, if I can see that, all of them are definitely going to be is going to be a certain a likelihood of it actually occurring. Okay, so if I do this, yes, it's definitely certain. All right, because if I'm spinning a number less than 5 on a spinner divided into 4 equal sections labeled 1 through 4, so obviously all of those are going to be less than 5. So this has definitely a certain likelihood of it landing in that. All right, next one. Choosing a weekday when randomly selecting dates from a given year. Okay, so we know that in a year, we do have a majority of weekdays when we are selecting dates from the year. And so, therefore, there is a likelihood, it is likely to happen. This one is definitely likely to happen. Okay, because it has a good chance of success since we have more weekdays than weekends. All right, the next one. It rains, given the chance of rain is 25%. So, since the a chance of rain is pretty slim, it's only 25% compared to 75% of it not raining. So, that is why, because it's only 25%, this is going to be unlikely. This is going to be unlikely. All right, so just these examples. Then let's look at drawing a red marble from a bag containing only 10 blue marbles. If there are only 10 marbles which are all blue in color, I can't be drawing a red from there because there's no red. Okay, so therefore, the chance of this happening is impossible. Okay, so this is impossible. Okay, and then let's look at the last one. Flipping a coin and it lands on heads. Now again, a coin, it has two sides. There's 50% chance of it landing on heads, 50% chance of it landing on tails. So there are only two options, okay? So therefore, the probability is going to be equally likely in this case because it can land on either head or tail. So it has the same chance of happening as not happening. Okay. Um, so let's do one more actually. Um, one more example. So let's look at this. And you got this spinner. The spinner shown is spun once. Classify the likelihood of each event as impossible, unlikely, equally likely, likely, or certain. All right. So we can see we have 3 dogs, 2 cats, we have a hamster. So it's saying the spinner landing on dog. So look at how many dogs. Yeah, there are 3 of these, and then we have 3 of these. So that means like out of 6, half is the likelihood of dogs. So therefore, it's definitely got a big chance that it's equally likely. Spinner landing on dog would be equally likely. Okay, so there we go. The spinner landing on hamster. Now, hamster is a very small portion, so there is a bigger chance of it that it lands on dogs or cats rather than hamster. So, therefore, this would be unlikely, okay, because the chance of success is pretty small over here. So, therefore, this is unlikely, okay. The spinner landing on dog or cat, on dog or cat, okay. So as you can see, the majority is dog or cat. There's only one portion which is hamster. So therefore, in this case, the probability of it landing on dog or cat is likely. Okay, because it has a high chance of success. Okay. The spinner landing on bird. Now, when we look over here, do we have bird at all? While spinning, absolutely not. So if there's no bird over there, there's absolutely zero chance of it landing on bird. So therefore, this would be impossible. This would be impossible. Okay. The spinner landing on an animal. So landing on an animal, as we can see, a dog is an animal, cat is an animal, hamster is an animal. All of them are animals. So because of that, the probability of it landing on an animal is absolutely certain, 100% certain. Okay, because they're all animals. Okay. And then the last one, the spinner landing on cat or hamster. So if I look at cat and I look at hamster, the probability is pretty much the same. And so therefore, this is going to be equally likely. All right. So again, this lesson is just trying to show us what is, whether we have equally likely chances of something landing somewhere, unlikely, likely, impossible, certain, equally likely. All right. So once again, please remember the likelihood of something. The descriptions are here. I'm going to just review this really quick before we, sign off for this lesson. Impossible, again, please remember it is not possible for anything for that probability to happen. Like we talked about the spinner, and it asks about the bird, but there was no bird on the spinner. And so obviously it was not possible, not going to happen. Okay. So unlikely is having a poor chance of success. So when you have a majority of something else and a very small portion of what you're asking about, so the event. So therefore, in that case, it is definitely that is unlikely. Okay. Equally likely when you have the same chance, when it's about the same proportion in both, then the chances of it occurring are equally likely. Likely would be having a really good chance of success. So majority of it is probably that. So there's a great chance of it that it will happen. And certain is when it is sure to happen. So this would be our lesson 9.1, again, module 9. And this whole lesson is completely about, this module is all about probability. Have a great day, everyone.